Before we begin the video, I just want to remind you that this month's giveaway is still going on. All you have to do to enter this wonderful Vizsla combo plus Darkblade is to tell me in the comments of this or any other video posted in April the name of your favorite duel involving the Darksaber.
As a young Jedi, I went to war. I accepted violence and darkness, and the Emperor called to me from across the galaxy. He made me a Sith Lord and named me Darth Revan.
Of all the beings to live throughout the timeline of Star Wars, few had more influence, nor created more echoes in the Force than the Jedi and Sith, Revan. Among both factions, despite being opposites, Revan was usually heralded as a great innovator, even later influencing the great Darth Bane into creating the Rule of Two. He was heralded by the Jedi as a hero, and by the Sith as a great leader and conqueror.
As a Jedi, Revan was a warrior who slaughtered armies. As a Sith, Revan was a teacher who trained 1,000 dark apprentices.
And while many of the influences that he had are well known to us, today I wanted to talk about one that was a little bit more obscure. The secret cult of Revanite followers on the Sith planet of Drumond Kaas. Speaking of the Revanites, I did want to give a huge thanks to our sponsor, Kyberlight, for once again sponsoring this episode.
Indeed. A Jedi tool and a Sith weapon. And why do you need such a thing?
Why do I say in relation to the Revanites? Well, because currently my build is this, which I call the Revanite lightsaber, because it is the closest thing you can get to the Revanite Mark II lightsabers you can get in Star Wars The Old Republic. And to me, that is just awesome. Kyberlight is great because they are one of the cheapest options to get a full saber with all the bells and whistles, including multiple fonts, smooth swing, color changing on the fly, and they have that awesome adaptive saber system that you can get different sleeves, emitters, and pommels to completely customize your saber experience.
Then listen to me. There is much weight, much craving attached to such a tiny thing of light.
Click the link in the description and use the promo code LORESTAR5.
For the male, it seems to have an inordinate importance. But we shall leave such male preoccupations for philosophers and cultural historians.
On Drumond Kaas, there was a cult founded in your honor.
So I've heard. Not what I would have wanted, given the things I did.
Now, the Revanite cult was founded sometime around 300 years after the supposed death of Revan. After the conclusion of the Jedi Civil War, Revan journeyed into the unknown regions in order to seek out something that was plaguing him in his lost memories. He kept having these flashbacks of this planet that was continuously surrounded by perpetual storms of lightning and dark side energy, and he knew that he had gone there at some point before he became Darth Revan, and he needed to return there to face whatever evil was lurking in his memory. The Force kept bringing these memories back to him, and he took that as a sign to say that there was unfinished business that he needed to take care of out there. Leaving his pregnant wife Bastila behind, Revan journeyed into the unknown regions and discovered the ancient Sith world of Nathema. Only this planet had been completely wiped of all life thanks to a ritual performed by the ancient Sith Emperor known as Darth Vitiate. It was there that Revan was captured by an agent of the Sith Emperor known as Lord Scourge and brought to Drumond Kaas as a prisoner. After the conclusion of the Sith Triumvirate conflict from KOTOR 2, the Jedi exile went into the unknown regions in order to find Revan, who had still not returned from his journey, even though he had been gone for several years at this point. Mitra Surik, the Jedi exile, journeyed to the unknown regions and did actually find and join up with Revan, finding that he had already actually begun to turn Lord Scourge away from the Sith Empire and begun to open him up to the light side of the Force. An incredibly compelling feat, especially to be done to a Sith pureblood. After this, Revan, Mitra, and Lord Scourge went together to the chambers of the Sith Emperor, ready to confront him once and for all. Unfortunately, Lord Scourge had begun to receive visions in the Force of Revan's failure. What's interesting is that Lord Scourge begins his journey not actually believing in Force visions, and Revan does try to convince him that the Force can show us possible futures. However, Scourge doesn't really understand what Revan is saying. He doesn't get how Force vision works, and so when he finally gets one, he wants to believe it in order to listen to Revan, but he doesn't understand what Revan was saying about the fact that these are possible futures, not definitive futures. And so, seeing that it's simply a possible future that someone else defeated the Sith Emperor, he betrays Mitra and Revan, killing Mitra and incapacitating Revan to become the Emperor's prisoner. Using Sith alchemy, the Emperor would keep Revan alive for the next 300 years, feeding on his energy and his connection to the Force, as well as using him to gain information about the Republic to see if they were vulnerable and ready to be attacked. Now, Revan's mission was not a complete failure, as this act actually delayed the Emperor's plans by 300 years. The Emperor was originally going to attack directly after the events of the Sith Triumvirate, which would have certainly destroyed the Republic, which was nowhere close to being healed from the wars that had just ravaged through that entire galaxy. On top of that, the Jedi Order consisted of basically Mitra Surik's companions from KOTOR 2, and was in no position to defend the galaxy from a fully fledged Sith Empire, complete with hundreds, if not thousands, of true Sith Lords and Darths. Now, this brings us back to the Revanite cult. About 300 years after that, there was a Sith initiate who had discovered records of Revan coming to the Imperial world of Drumond Kaas, and she began to study who Revan was both as a Jedi and as a Sith, which led her to forming the Order of Revan. The Order of Revan was dedicated to preserving Revan's teachings. These were people who were raised in the Sith Empire, similar to how the Jedi we see in the movies are raised to believe you don't touch the dark side, it's bad, leave it alone. The Sith were trained the same way about the light side, to completely ignore it, don't touch it. And what this leader of the Revanites noticed was that Revan became incredibly powerful because he had touched both sides of the Force, and he had found a clarity and wisdom in not ignoring the Force as a whole and choosing simply part of it, but embracing the contrast, as his teacher would have advocated. The Revanites began to integrate certain light side teachings and practices into the Empire, attempting to really make the Empire a more balanced government, one that did have the ambition and the strength of the dark side, but as well it embraced the compassion and the wholeness of the light side. To become a Revanite, the initiate must be chosen as one who seems predisposed towards the teachings of Revan, and they must undergo several trials in order to prove that they could walk the path of Revan.
For every Revanite must face the trial of death, just as Revan died at the hands of the Jedi and Sith.
The first trial was the Trial of Rebirth, and it would involve the initiate going to a shrine of Revan and experiencing some sort of ritual in the Force. Whatever actually happens is really nebulous, but they imply very heavily that this is an actual death and that they are reborn, similar to how Revan died and was reborn.
I am dead, and reborn over and over, Jedi, Sith.
Death and rebirth is an incredibly important part of Revan's story, and it was implied that in order to be free of your old obligations and commitments, you would have to die and be reborn so that you could fully embrace who you were, completely free of expectation.
Death freed Revan, left him unbound from all oaths and promises. It paved his road to rebirth.
Every Revanite's initiation includes a trial of the past, a rite to bind the initiate to Revan. Your rite will be very special. You will find the mask of Darth Revan.
The next trial was the Trial of the Past, and this one would appear to be different for each initiate since not all the initiates can go for Revan's mask, but the player character for Star Wars: The Old Republic is tasked with retrieving the actual mask of Darth Revan. After retrieving the mask, you are given the option to either give it to Ladra, a very dark side leaning follower of the Revanites, who seems to give the mask a very sacrosanct relic worshipfulness.
Ladra's devoted to the Revanites. She's also obsessed with that mask. Says it talks to her.
However, you encounter the Keeper of the Revanites' history, who advises you not to give the mask to Ladra because the mask was imbued with a significant portion of Revan's dark side power, and he wants to make it clear, especially to the Revanites on Drumond Kaas, who are already inclined towards the dark side, that Revan was not only Sith, and that the dark side was not all of Revan's power.
Ladra wants the mask to represent everything Revan ever was, but he wasn't just Sith. Before his rebirth, he was both Sith and Jedi.
Now you've got me interested.
And so by giving it to the historian, he will keep it safe for study and for ceremony, but it wouldn't be able to be a beacon for Revan's dark sideness.
Ladra will use the mask to teach that Revan was a being of only darkness. I don't want that mask becoming our Order's sole focus.
The trial of the past is important because, obviously, Revan was from the past, and so preserving the past would be crucial to preserving the teachings of Revan.
You need to show those in the Master's inner circle that you understand of Revan's teachings. They'll ask questions. You'll answer. If they're not satisfied, they'll abandon the test of wisdom and begin your test of strength. Revan didn't suffer the weak.
However, at this point, the player is only halfway done with the trials of the Revanites. The next trial is the trial of wisdom, and it's a weird one because you meet this Shagrian and he only asks you one question, which I find to be a little bit odd if you're really trying to prove whether or not this person is wise. However, the question has 3 options to answer with, and only one is actually considered to be totally incorrect. It's clear that he has a most correct answer and a acceptable correct answer and a very wrong answer. If you fail and pick the only wrong answer, then you will immediately be attacked by his beasts and must defend yourself. And if you can prove that you're strong enough that you don't need wisdom, I guess they let you in anyway. It's a weird one. I don't know, but it's a game. So game logic prevails for this test. Now, this Shagrian only asks one question, which is, why do you think that Revan trained aliens in the ways of the Sith? Now, this makes less sense in the time of Revan and more sense to ask on Drumond Kaas with the Sith Empire, because the Sith Empire did have a very clear genetic hierarchy that put Sith purebloods at the top and humans somewhere below that, but then everyone else like the Togruta, the Twi'leks, the Zabraks, and of course the Shagrian would all be considered to be some form of second-class citizen. So the Shagrian asks, why did Revan do this? And you're given 3 options, and if you answer it was because Revan was compassionate, this is considered to be the most incorrect answer and the one that will immediately trigger you to be attacked by his beasts.
It was an act of kindness.
Never forget that Revan was Sith, and there is no kindness among the Sith.
He tells you this is incorrect because while Revan was a Jedi, he was still a Sith, and so he wouldn't make compassionate decisions if they weren't also tactically advantageous. And so the 2 correct answers are either that everyone deserves a chance to rise to power.
He believed everyone should have the chance to aspire to power.
Your answer is not my answer, but it is sufficient.
Which is kind of a similar version of the compassionate answer, except it is a lot more Sithly focused. In fact, this is the kind of answer you'd expect from Revan's teacher, Kreia, which actually leads me to believe that it may be the most correct answer. However, what the Shagrian considers to be the most correct answer is,
Revan knew that servants are more useful when they're powerful.
You answer well. You answer wisely. You speak like a true Revanite.
That a weak servant has no utility. To answer this is clearly the most Sithly answer. However, even being Sithly, it does still raise others up. And so even if it's for selfish reasons, it is not totally what you'd expect from the Sith Empire and the Sith teachings. The Shagrian considers this to be the most correct answer, as we've said, even if I personally don't think that this is the most correct answer, and it is kind of left to the audience to decide if the Shagrian is misinterpreting Revan through the lens of the Sith Empire.
Raymond contacted me from the base. Said you wanted to join our society. Is it true?
It's true. I'm seeking the approval of the inner circle.
Now, after that, presuming that you answer one of the 2 correct answers and have made it this far, you will get the test of strength, at which point you will speak to this Mandalorian. This Mandalorian descended from one of the many clans who fought in the Great Mandalorian War leading up to the Jedi Civil War.
It was our privilege to battle Jedi.
She descends from people who actually fought in combat against Revan, and she shares a very similar worldview to that of Canderous.
We lost the war over Malchor 5, but that was a privilege too. It's out of respect for Revan that I agreed to join the Master.
As a Sith Inquisitor, here I was able to tell her that I will find knowledge and lore about Revan and his history.
I'll learn all I can about Revan's past.
Fine. The Order has enough warriors. You might be able to serve.
and so she doesn't make me fight any of the Mandalorians. However, picking any of the other options, or even being a class that doesn't give you such an option, like the Sith Warrior, means that you will have to fight Mandalorians to prove your strength, since Revan was a character of immense combat prowess as well as wisdom and knowledge.
Revan was a warrior, a leader, and deserves to be remembered.
Now after that, we are led to the Wall, where we will meet this guy.
Come on over. There's nothing to trouble us here, and we can speak freely.
Hey, haven't we met you before?
By the stars, you made it back. Did you find the Mask of Revan? Tell me you didn't let Ladra have it. She's mad.
Yeah, so Admiral Vasectomy plays 2 of the Revanite members, and he's a really fun one. He is not a Sith, he is not a Mandalorian, he is simply an Imperial on the Wall with just the most pleasant demeanor.
I'm Major Pathel, at your service. It's always wonderful to meet new initiates. The Order of Revan needs all the dedicated young people it can get.
You're awfully cheerful, aren't you?
And it's magnificent, and I love him so dearly for it. But he talks a little bit about just what it means to be a Revanite. We are not sanctioned by the Empire. They don't like us. Please don't use this to promote your rank within the Empire or to gain power. Be a Revanite merely to better yourself.
How do we answer the Empire's accusations of heresy?
We need to show our enemies the truth.
After that, you return to the Revanite compound, where you are finally allowed to meet the Revanite leader. And, well, I spoiled this earlier. The big reveal is that the leader is a female, which is only a reveal because they continuously used masculine pronouns throughout the whole quest. And so you're led to believe it's a man, and that's all a ruse to keep who the leader is a secret so that the Empire can't go after her. It's a whole thing. But the Revanites, up until this point, have been a really interesting and complex presence on Drumond Kaas, wanting to bring the light side of the Force into the Sith teachings and to create a balanced empire. However, here's where things start to get super crazy conspiracy theorist level, so put on your tinfoil hats for a moment.
Some believe Revan died at the hands of our Emperor. I believe otherwise.
Because this wonderful leader of the Revanites does what she does because she found out that Revan came and confronted the Emperor, and also found out that the Emperor really hasn't been heard from in the past few years. And so she thinks, and get this, that Revan killed the Sith Emperor, Darth Vitiate, took his place on the throne, and has been secretly ruling the Sith Empire, mind you, without integrating any of the light side practices that they believe are so important to who Revan was, and is secretly leader of the Sith the whole time.
The only explanation is this. The Dark Council betrayed their leader and locked Emperor Revan away, seizing power for themselves. They seek to silence us because we know.
She's absolutely bananas. And it's really, really fun to see this level of psycho conspiracy theory in Star Wars. She legit thinks that Revan has been the Sith Emperor the whole time. Or not the whole time, but the past 300 years. And it's not true. Revan is a prisoner. We find him later. But he definitely, she definitely thinks that he's the Emperor. So, that's there.
I think I've heard enough conspiracy theories.
It's difficult, I know, to think that our great Emperor suffers.
This is kind of where the Revanite plot starts to make no sense, because, as I said, the Empire has really rebuffed teachings of the light side, and so why would the leader of the Empire continue to propagate that when they already know that Revan was light and dark? Wouldn't he be incorporating some of his light side teachings into the Empire?
I believe Revan overthrew the Emperor and has sat secretly on the throne for 3 centuries. Aside from our order, only the Dark Council knows the truth.
You're completely mad, aren't you?
Now, she does have some sort of explanation for why, 1, the Revanites are hated and persecuted, and 2, why the Empire is dark right now, and that's because she believes that the reason the Dark Council hasn't spoken to the Emperor in the past several years is because they found out he was Revan, and so they locked him away. Again, that didn't happen, but it still wouldn't explain why up until the point where they stopped hearing from the Emperor that he wasn't integrating light side practices. But yeah, this was just a super fun quest. Now, the Revanites do come back later in the Shadow of Revan expansion pack, where Revan does actually return and use these loyal followers as a army of sorts, but that's a story for another day. But anyway, guys, that is the tale of the strange cult that worshipped Revan on Drumond Kaas. What did you think about this strange story? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, because as always, I want to know what you, my friends, have to say about our favorite galaxy far, far away. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or if you learned absolutely nothing new, you can feel free to leave a thumbs down completely guilt-free, because that tells me I'm not doing my job. Don't forget, we have a giveaway going on right now for the entire month of April to win the Vizsla combo pack and the Dark Blade. So all you have to do to enter is tell me in the comments the name of your favorite duel that involves the Dark Saber. On top of that, I've got some really exciting news. If you've made it to this far into the video, then chances are you are a real and true fan. So I'm really excited to announce that we have begun officially pre-production on my fan film. I just hired a director, and I am really, really excited. We've got the basis of a plot going right now. It is not fully fledged out, but keep an eye open for news on that, because I am really, really excited for this project. But in the meantime, guys, I've been going on about this too long. So thank you all so much for watching, and as always, may the lore be with you, now and forever.